Hi, One Best PR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are talking right now with Chris Andrews from AgainstTheNumber.com. NFL Week 17. A lot of interesting possibilities for us to bet. Chris Andrews is going to give us two of the lines that he thinks might have some value that are currently available as of right now. Chris Andrews, what's the first NFL Week 17 game you'd like to bring to our attention?
We have a couple games that are probably off a lot of people's radar, but you know, Peter, when you pick a winner,
sure,
you lay 11 to 10, you get paid. They're all interesting. So the first one I'm going with, I like Chicago over Detroit. -1 is primarily what I'm looking at. Alshon Jeffrey is out for Chicago, and tell you the truth, that you like to tease me a little bit. Does that scare me? Yeah, that does scare me, and I think rightfully so.
Actually, can I tell you what I would like to ask you? Does it scare you more?
Sure.
Is how awesome Detroit's offense has been since they switched offensive coordinators. I mean, Rat Stafford has really been flourishing.
He's been terrific. Jim Bob Cooter, who we all like to make fun of his name, but he's done a terrific job. But I think this game here, I think really if you look at pure numbers, my numbers come to Detroit 1. So very, very close. I think if you look at incentive, though, the incentive is on the side of Chicago. I think Detroit really did rectify a lot of their problems since Martha Ford went in. Little 90-year-old lady fired just about everybody. She probably would have liked to fire more of them. But they all got their act together, including Stafford, who really has been terrific over the last half dozen weeks of the season, or even more than that. But I think part of it, too, is you'll see Detroit beat them in a pretty big game earlier in the year. I think 37-34 was the final. I think Chicago also playing some pretty decent football. They've been a little more sporadic than Detroit, who Detroit was awful, obviously, when everybody got fired, and now has been on a roll since then. But I think Chicago overall has been a pretty decent team. Jay Cutler having a pretty good season for them. As I said, these home teams, two sub-500 teams playing at home, home teams have been pretty strong, both straight up and against the spread. Of course, this one is, we're only talking about a 1-point number. Probably the winner of the game is going to cover the game as well. But I think right now, you look at that incentive, plus the loss from earlier in the season, and I think Detroit, somewhere in their mind, feels that they have things somewhat rectified and on the right track, whereas I think that Chicago still fighting and fighting hard, been a little bit more, as I said before, a little more sporadic, but I think they play extremely well here in their final home game of the season. I'd like them to beat Detroit.
Okay, sounds good. What's your second NFL game from Week 17 you'd like to discuss with us?
Another one that I think is a little bit off the radar, I like San Francisco over St. Louis. And I think this is another team, St. Louis, who's played well now 3 weeks in a row. And, of course, they had a real big win last week. But, if you look at San Francisco and you look at them as a home team all season, and I tell you what, Peter, I think they probably are the worst team in the NFL. But if you look, their home record is not that bad,
right,
particularly on defense. They held some very good teams to reasonable numbers. The Bengals, they lost. They gave up 24 to the Bengals, who had McCarron at the time. They gave, they exactly right. They did have McCarron in that game. Gave up 19 to the Cardinals. Beat the Falcons 17-16. Gave up 20 to the Seahawks. They didn't win or cover, but not all in all a terrible effort. Held the Ravens to 20, the Packers to 17. Won their opener. I know that was a long time ago, but still won their opener at home against the Vikings 20-3. So I realize they're not a very good team. But they are a pretty good home team. We're getting 3.5 in this one. I think right now we talk about buy low, sell high. I think St. Louis right now at a little bit of a high. And listen, 49ers have pretty much been at a low all season. But I think we're getting them in a pretty decent spot. Again, two teams, no place to go. I like the home team in this situation. I think they have a little bit more incentive. I think they show up and give a very good performance. Like I said, getting 3.5 in most spots, I think we get the dough with the dog.
I agree with you, especially with the total so low. Also, maybe a teaser. I mean, the teaser prices aren't necessarily as good as they once were in the NFL, but you got a 37 total and a home dog of 3 or 3.5. What do you think about maybe using San Francisco on a teaser?
Boy, a teaser, I'll tell you what, if you can get it up to +10, with a reasonable amount of juice.
Right.
You know, like you said, totals 37. Boy, I tell you what, that looks like a very strong teaser play. Absolutely.
Chris Andrews, thanks so much, as always.